In 1904, a new soft drink hit the market that would quickly take the world by storm, and by 1920 would be vitally important in speakeasies all over America, making the consumption of illicit underground alcohol palatable and accessible to flappers and bright young things who until recently were excluded from the stodgy old taverns, saloons, and beer halls that served the heady room-temperature beer, slugs of liquor, and in more refined establishments, expensive and flamboyant cocktails. I am, of course, referring to Canada Dry Ginger Ale, the revolutionary soft drink that became synonymous with fast times and loose morals. And today, I'm going to recreate that original 1920s formulation, which must surely be different from the modern Canada Dry, which is, in my opinion, hardly dry and doesn't taste like ginger. But let's go back in time. If anything, this tastes like a Sprite, like a lemon lime soda. I don't taste ginger in a Canada Dry at all. Do you? I don't. Reminds me of The Price is Right. You know why. But yeah, raise your hands if you think Canada Dry Ginger Ale tastes like ginger. Anyway, we need a little bit of history here, because prior to 1904, ginger ale generally referred to a style which was called Belfast ginger ale, which was originally produced by Thomas Cantrell in 1851. It became quite popular, inspiring a number of imitators. I've read descriptions of it saying that it was darker in color, quite sweet, and fairly hot and spicy. It doesn't sound too far off from a Caribbean-style ginger beer, and truth be told, I wasn't even planning on making any in the episode, but in my hunt for the original recipe for this apparently magical golden elixir that must have been 1920s Canada Dry, it was then sold as pale, dry ginger ale, I stumbled into a formula for Belfast ginger ale. That formula consists of 6 ounces of ginger powder, 2.5 ounces of dried ground orange peel, 280 grains of grated nutmeg, 280 grains of Ceylon cinnamon, 140 grains of powdered vanilla seed extracted, and 16 ounces of ethanol. And in this particular recipe, capsaicin is regarded as optional. According to Darcy O'Neill of The Art of Drink, someone you should really be following if you're into this kind of thing, capsaicin was basically used to add heat to all ginger ales and ginger beers of the era. So much so that when Canada Dry comes along, they advertise their disuse of capsaicin, saying that we don't use any ever. Anyway, that recipe was a bit antiquated and very large. I don't know what grains are, and I don't particularly care to find out. I was about to start modernizing it and scaling it down a bit until I realized that Darcy had already done this exact thing in his ginger ale video, though with a recipe that includes rose oil and capsaicin that appears to be in most formulations for Belfast-style ginger ale. And since this episode is about dry ginger ale anyway, and we're talking about Belfast only as a point of comparison, I went with his Belfast, though I did swap his orange peels and lime peels for an appropriate amount of essential oils. You're gonna get the same result either way. I just didn't have scads of dried orange and lime peels lying around. Anyway, to make this Belfast-style ginger ale, I chopped up 4 grams of vanilla bean, grated 9 grams of nutmeg, and crumbled 9 grams of Ceylon cinnamon stick, pulverized those into a powder in a mortar and pestle. Then I mixed in 90 grams of powdered dry ginger root. As an aside, something chemical happens to ginger when it dries, and you get a hotter, spicier ginger flavor from dried ginger root than you do from fresh ginger root. So when a recipe calls for one or the other, use what it calls for. I packed all of that into a percolator with an equal amount by weight of 95% ethanol, otherwise known as Everclear, and then I added the 1.5 grams of capsaicin, cayenne pepper, because I forgot it. Then I let the whole thing sit for about 24 hours. When it comes time to drain these percolators, I get impatient and I really want to get every last drop, so I use a vacuum filter to draw it out very fast and very completely. Then I added more ethanol back to the percolator to rinse out the rest of the extract that we could to make 240 mils of this thing, which is what we were supposed to do, right? And then to that extract, I added 45 microliters of a 1% dilution of rose oil that I had made, 140 microliters of lime oil, and 1 milliliter of bitter orange oil. Darcy likes cognac oil in this and says it was one of the secret ingredients along with rose oil back in the day, but he does call it optional, and frankly, it's pretty pricey stuff, so I skipped it because it's optional. And once you've got your flavor essence like that, you would use 30 mils of that to every liter of a 3 to 2 part simple syrup. That means 3 parts sugar, 2 parts water. And then use 1 ounce of that to 7 ounces of seltzer to make a drink. And yes, I did just swap from metric to standard. That's because my brain works in metric right up to the point of service when everything is in American. And then you use 7 ounces of soda water to 1 ounce of syrup, poured in that order. They call that the solid serve. It prevents overfizzing and maintains carbonation. Or the same ratio, 7 to 1. So that's why I can eyeball that. And then give it a little scrape there, make sure everything's incorporated. And that is Belfast ginger ale. I love this ginger ale, and I'm so glad I wound up making it for this episode because I think this might be my favorite ginger ale, ginger beer, whatever, ever. It is definitely spicy. The vanilla rounds it out in a very nice way. The nutmeg is there. I mean, like that nutmeg orange lime, this information comes straight from Darcy. That is like the kind of soul of something like Coca-Cola, right? So you've got all of that, whatever that is, the citrus parts of Coca-Cola with the Caribbean spice, the nutmeg and the cinnamon in there that really, it makes it very good. It makes it very interesting. The vanilla is really lovely here. It's just right. And actually really surprising to me. I love what the rose oil does to it. It doesn't taste like roses. It has like a fragrant finish that is so good. It's so good. I wish to hell that you could taste this. It is so good, and people sometimes ask me about making soft drinks available to purchase or syrups available to purchase, such as pre-Prohibition 1920s era grenadine, which does not have pomegranates in it, and which I think makes a big difference in certain drinks. I am working on that. It's more difficult than I thought it was going to be. I've been working on it for like a year, actually. I need to find a flavor house that is willing to work with me the way that I want to work. I have a few numbers I gotta call, so I'm chasing that down. I can't say when it'll happen. I really hope it happens in the next few months because it's been driving me crazy. But I can say that when it finally does happen, people in my Patreon are gonna be notified first, right? They're gonna get first dibs. And I have to say that without Patreon, this show is not possible. You know, revenue on YouTube has actually truly collapsed at this point. Like there's like almost nothing there anymore. I'm sure a lot of other YouTubers are telling you the same garbage. It is true, at least for me, it stinks, you know, viewership's a little bit down. These videos are actually performing worse. I really thought that these deeper dive history things would actually perform better, but whatever, they're more fun for me to make and I like making them. And as long as the show is supported by Patreon, I can. This is a totally full-time job, more than a full-time job for me. It is more than a full-time job for Meredith. Also, we have a freelance editor who works on this. Like, this is not something anybody could do as a hobby. And if you love this show and would like to see it continue to be made, please check out my Patreon and see if there's anything over there that'll be worth your while. In addition to behind the scenes content and first dibs on things, we have show pins in a pin store. Patrons get free pins every so often. There's behind the scenes content. There is our private Discord, which is super fun and a great community and actually comes up later in this episode again. We have great mods over there who are running multiple Secret Santas a year. They do happy hours, all kinds of stuff. And of course, the How to Drink app that I made that turns the show into your personal cocktail guide right in your pocket. System agnostic. Very proud of that. All part of what we do at Patreon to make this show possible. So please take a look at the Patreon, see if there's anything over there that is of interest to you. And if there is, I will see you in the Discord. But as much as I love this Belfast ginger ale, as incredibly scrumtrelescently delicious as it is, it's not what I'm looking for in this episode, right? I want to know what they were drinking in those speakeasies in 1924. I want to know what was in the cups at Club Intime or at the 300 Club when Texas Guinan got raided. I just did an episode on her, maybe the most famous woman in the world in her day, and just an all-around amazing, hugely influential character who happened to make a living running the hottest speakeasies in New York City. And guess what? Nobody watched that episode. Nobody. So you should watch it now because this is kind of a sequel to it. It's part of this whole series. And in that one, I made a gin buck, basically the first name in speakeasy drinks, using Boylan's ginger ale on the assumption that Boylan's was probably closer to what Canada Dry tasted like back in those days. But what I really wanted to be able to do was recreate that now lost ginger ale, but I wasn't able to get my hands on a recipe for it. Then I did some more digging and I had a breakthrough. And by the way, it is safe to assume that there's no modern soft drink on the market today that tastes like whatever it tasted like back in the early 1900s or late 1800s or whenever it first came onto the market. Everything has been changed. The sweeteners have been changed, whether or not that matters. The essences, the extracts, everything has been changed. They're different from market to market. I promise you, whatever it was, it isn't anymore. It's just not. Now, the descriptions of that 1904 pale ginger ale compare it to champagne with very low sweetness and distinct ginger flavors. As I said, I don't know about you, but to my palate, that's about as far from modern Canada Dry as you can get. So I started digging, looking for the 1904 recipe for Canada Dry. And it wasn't easy. I was finding nothing because, frankly, the original formula for Canada Dry is of much less interest to the whole world and to the internet, for example, than the original formula for Coca-Cola. So I was kind of treading new ground here in drink archaeology. And so far as I've ever been able to find, the exact formula that John McLaughlin first created in his Toronto pharmacy in 1904 has never actually been leaked or really uncovered. Or has it? So the thing about digging into these old recipes is that pharmacists published formularies, big books of recipes for sodas and soft drinks and extracts and also drugs that would be sold to other pharmacists. It's just how the business worked. And I was looking between two of them, the 1910 Bottler's Formulary and the 1897 Standard Manual of Sodas and Other Beverages. And I found quite a few recipes for ginger ale. But I didn't know which one would be closest to Canada Dry, because I didn't know enough about what that stuff of yore tasted like. So I started looking for basically any reviews or write-ups or any kind of indication as to what I was looking for. What did Canada Dry taste like in 1904? If I could figure that out, I could probably figure out which of these recipes was closest. Enter advertising. So I started looking for mentions in old newspapers, and I found advertisements for Canada Dry that go out of their way to specify that Canada Dry does not contain capsaicin. So I go run through the list of formulas for ginger ale that are in the 1910 Bottler's Formulary, and there it is. The recipe that doesn't call for capsaicin. And wouldn't you know it, it's called Polo ginger ale. And what was the thing that Canada Dry loved to put into their advertising more than anything else? Polo. The ginger ale for the smart set, dear. But there's more! See, because at the same time, I'm also digging through the 1897 book, and I find a suspiciously similar ginger ale recipe that's being called, get this, champagne ginger ale. And what is the slogan that Canada Dry is using for itself? The champagne of ginger ales. Now, based on the ingredients here, the relative simplicity and straightforwardness, the lack of capsaicin, I'm sure that if this isn't the exact recipe for period-appropriate Canada Dry, that it's gonna be damn close. But 1897 champagne ginger ale predates Canada Dry pale ginger ale by a whole 7 years. And I'm gonna tell you what I think, and I hate to say it, but I think old John McLaughlin was a damn liar. I don't think he invented Canada Dry at all. I think he popped open that 1897 standard manual, picked out a recipe, and started selling it. Champagne ginger ale, come on down to John McLaughlin's for a glass. Now I can give him the benefit of the doubt and suggest that he might have added a little bit more to it, but they really love that champagne of ginger ale bit in their advertising. And I have a funny feeling that when he started selling it in his own pharmacy, it was just champagne ginger ale. Now there is actually a difference in these two recipes, and it was pointed out to me by one of the patrons in our private Discord that I have for members of my Patreon, which I just talked about, and that is that the 1897 recipe calls for ginger extract as opposed to ginger essential oil. That book, the 1897 book, defines recipes for the essences earlier in the book. The lemon and the orange that are in there are just essential oils or near enough, but the ginger, that's an extract, and that matters because ginger extract is quite hot and spicy. And I'm not really expecting pale ginger ale to be very hot, but there's a twist. See, part of the process of making any of these ginger essences would have been to use magnesium carbonate to clarify out all the cloudy, non-soluble oleoresins and such. That was just like the laws of the soda fountain or something, and that process does turn the ginger heat way down, which is why they would have added capsaicin to these in the first place, to recover and maybe even increase that lost heat. But this champagne ginger ale recipe doesn't call for capsaicin, and after clarifying, I would expect it to have about the same heat as the Polo ginger ale that's based on ginger essential oil instead of ginger extract. The other difference that's in that recipe is the inclusion of quiaja, which I think I'm pronouncing that right, quiaja, unless it's quilaja, which I don't think it is. I'm pretty sure it's quiaja. And that's just a plant that produces saponin, which is a natural kind of soap. It's in there in small quantities as a surfactant, emulsifier, and foaming agent. It really doesn't affect flavor, just texture and clarity. Anyway, like the other recipes in these old books, the Polo ginger ale that I'm looking at is both massive and kind of antiquated. We can make this a lot easier and smaller and have the exact same result by using 12.38 milliliters of ginger oil from New Directions Aromatics, 0.99 milliliters of fresh ginger oil from New Directions as well. That accounts for the difference between Jake's and white ginger oils, which good luck finding these days. 3.53 mils of sweet orange oil, 1.11 mils of lemon oil, 0.27 milliliters of distillation extracted lime oil, 175 milliliters of ethanol. Mix that up real good, and then add enough distilled or filtered water to make 312 mils of essence. I put that into a separatory funnel and chilled it overnight, and then separated off all the terpenes, which would have been standard practice at the time. Use 30 mils of essence to 1 liter of 3-2 syrup, and again, 7-1 to make a drink. It would have been standard practice to dehaze this with magnesium carbonate, and I started that process, but it's gonna take time. It takes as long as it takes, maybe a week, and it was time to shoot. You can see it's a little bit hazy, right? It's not so bad though. And it's definitely closer to champagne in color than our Belfast. So this is the legendary Canada Dry Ginger Ale, that exotic beverage. 7 parts soda water, 1 part Polo syrup. Might have been a little heavy, but that's okay. Look at the color on that, right? Like if this was dehazed, that would be see-through. And in fact, we might add some caramel color to it to darken it up just a touch. Canada Dry. I'm sorry, Polo Ginger Ale. It's so bright, citrusy, and gingery. It is bright ginger as opposed to spicy ginger. The difference between Belfast and this, the Belfast has actually quite a bit of ginger heat to it. It's very close to like a Caribbean-style ginger beer. This definitely is related to it. It tastes like ginger and lemon and orange. It's very nice. It's very refined. Now, the other thing about this too is that they would age these essences in both cases for like a year, and chemical things happen that changes the flavor. So in a year, I mean, I have the essence in my fridge. Is it gonna be different in a year? Yeah. Will it be even better? Probably. But it's very nice right now. I like this a lot. It has like a crisp kind of bite ginger flavor that is not here at all. The one thing I really like about the Belfast is it has a floral vanilla and rose note in it that I really like. I like that a lot. But if you're comparing either of them to modern Canada Dry, they're light years better. But specifically, let's compare 1920 Canada Dry, maybe, versus modern Canada Dry. I mean, honestly, compared to these, I would say it's almost devoid of characteristics because these have such loud flavors in them. My palate is ruined. I don't even know if I can taste Canada Dry anymore. Yeah, I'm all messed up. Right now, that kind of tastes like bubblegum. I know from earlier in the episode that it tastes like weak Sprite, like something like Sprite-ish. I like it better than Sprite. It's less sweet than Sprite, but this is so cool. It does have like a pine note in there, actually, and I wonder if that means that the terpene actually did manage to get into there and dissolve, even though it probably shouldn't have. Dissolve into solution. And that makes a lot of sense that you would pair this with gin because that's the main thing in gin, is pinene and limonene. I really enjoy this. Now, the thing to do with this is to make a gin buck. That was the drink of the day. That was the speakeasy special. It's what everybody was drinking. So let's do it. I've actually kind of got just the right amount of my Canada Dry. Sorry, Polo ginger ale here. I'll add to that 2 ounces of London Dry. Squeeze a lime, just a squeeze. Give that a little stir. Gin buck. That is awesome. No wonder. It's mild, gingery. It actually has a ginger bite to it that I really enjoyed. It's not a fire, it's not like a Caribbean ginger beer, but boy, that has like a lot of ginger flavor in it that is totally devoid from any modern ginger ale that I know of, honestly. It's not heavy. You can definitely drink a few of these. You can still taste the gin, but not, you know, not like loud. I think I've read that sometimes people would put a little Angostura bitters in these. 1 dash wouldn't do too badly, just to spice it up a bit. I'm, as always, a huge fan. Was it worth it to go back in time? Was it worth the effort that this took? Yes, that is 1920s ginger ale. See you guys next time on HTD.